Hey everyone, I'm Lorraine Driscoll, founder of Building Better Brains, and today I want to talk about something that I was just talking to a mom um, about a week ago. She was really frustrated because she felt like her child's learning difficulties were being minimized, and the word she actually used was she felt like her child's learning difficulties were being romanticized in terms of I'm going to explain that actually in a minute. So the thing is that she was frustrated with was the school just kept saying that her child learns different and they just need a different, learning. The teacher needs to adopt a different learning strategy or teaching style so that, they could teach to this child's learning difference. And the mom understood that her child is, uniquely wired, and so forth. But what she was really annoyed at is that her child's difficulties were being minimized and the level of frustration this kid was going through, and even it was being dismissed as this is the solution. The solution is just, like changing the way the teacher is teaching. And kudos to the teacher. I was one for many years. I'm just going to click this off. Who has to deal with, all these kids who have all these different difficulties and try to teach to all these different learning styles. But what the problem is that sometimes these kids are not getting the help they need. And these struggles, these learning struggles that kids are going through when they're legitimate learning disabilities, we need to be careful that while we don't want kids to feel stigmatized, that we also don't minimize or even romanticize them. And I'm even going to go as far as to say to normalize them in that, there's a difference between someone who can learn different or who does learn differently but isn't struggling versus someone who has a legitimate breakdown in processing and so forth. So it's one thing to learn different, it's another thing to struggle, and they are not the same. And so basically, what her frustration was is that when we normal not when the school was minimizing or romanticizing this, what happens is it totally dismisses the struggles that these kids go through and how hard it is. And then they don't really get the help they need because it's just, well, this is just how we have to do it and so forth. Now, I want to be clear, the schools are really not set up to help kids in the way that and give them the support that they truly need when they have true learning disabilities or behavioral difficulties and all of that type of stuff. So I want to be careful to make it clear that expecting the school to do that is a little bit unrealistic, whether you think that's fair or not. We all know schools are underfunded, don't have enough resources, all of that type of stuff. But it's definitely a pet peeve of mine because when we minimize what's going on or romanticize what's going on and say they just learn different, they're very special, which they totally are, um, you know, we dismiss the fact that these kids literally have brains that are disorganized. The research has shown this. They often have a biochemistry that's imbalanced. There's some really concrete things going on here. And if we don't address that and just kind of, ignore the impacts that these learning disabilities have on self-esteem and motivation and all that type of stuff when kids get older, and if they are not addressed properly, the research has shown that higher risk of poverty, higher risk of drug addiction, higher risk of even, the criminal justice system. And I'm not telling you all of this to freak you out. Most of the moms I talk to anyways tell me these are all the things that they're afraid of. I don't believe that, is going to be the path for your child. But it's just, this is what happens when these kids try so hard for years, don't get the help that they need, and they're just given strategies as if that's just they need a different strategy because it's like a different learning style. And I'm going to be quite frank, I find it to be a bit of a cop out. We are dismissing an actual learning disorder and the concrete research that has been around for decades in terms of what we can do. Is your child uniquely wired? 100%. This is why these kids, as I mentioned the other day in a previous video, why they have, areas of genius. They're very gifted in certain areas compared to maybe their neurotypical peers, but then they have these areas where they really, really struggle, whether it's with reading or memory or behavior, social skills, emotional regulation, whatever the case may be. But bottom line is they have weak connections. For example, dyslexia, typically learning disabilities in general has to do with a underdeveloped left side of the brain and an overdeveloped right side of the brain, right? Which results, I believe I talked about that the other day, in areas of genius with art, mechanics, problem solving, social skills, all that type of stuff. So it's not about making kids like the other kids, but we do want to address and strengthen those weak connections so kids are not like struggling with these things that are critical to survival in our modern life, like reading and writing. So, we really want to get to moving the limitations and frustrations that they are facing so that they can, like, their gifts can actually shine, and they can, not be limited in terms of what they think they can achieve, or in terms of, like, sometimes they really are limited in what they can achieve because they just don't have the skills, like concrete or solid reading and writing skills and so forth. So the key, for example, with a kid who has a learning disability or dyslexia, often among all the other things, looking at brain chemistry and primitive reflex integration and all that stuff, is brain balance. So stimulating that weak left side of the brain so that the language center is better and the short-term memory is better, and the fine motor skills are stronger and all of that type of stuff. So bottom line, I just wanted to pop on quickly is you cannot address a learning disability and properly support it by just using a learning by addressing it through a learning style. So we all have learning styles. That's great, whatever, but you can't, that can't be the end result in terms of support. That's what keeps kids stuck. So they need brain training, not more learning strategies and all of that type of stuff. And those things are all great. Every good teacher does them for every kid, but that can't be the solution for kids who are struggling with learning disorders. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to put a link down below for my free starter kit. And also, if you are interested in knowing more about my program and you want to book a free 30-minute clarity call to know more about my program or how to enroll, you can do that. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.